I want to give you the tools to become a lifelong reader, because in these last 18 months, the algorithms have won the war, and they're not getting any worse. They've taken me away from my books, they've taken me away from my hobbies, and I've had to claw my way back by going back to what made me a reader in the first place, to what made it so I could go from book to book and not just lose that time to television, etc., etc. So I'm going to lay down the 3 principles for you real fast so you know how to become a reader, whether you were a reader or you're just trying to get into it so you can be like all your friends who have super long reading lists where they're going to somehow digest 100 classics in 100 days and all the crazy stuff like that doesn't even seem possible if you're someone that usually likes to go and vegetate in front of a screen after work, after school, etc., etc. So, how do you do it? How do you read? The trick is you got to find a book that's in the sweet spot between impressive and interesting and intriguing and something you're actually going to be able to read with your likely TikTok affected brain. Here's a metaphor for understanding this. If you were trying to make your grandma into a gamer girl, which of course we all are, you wouldn't start her on Dark Souls or some really hard game that's going to kill her immediately and make her completely lose interest. But also, because you love and respect your grandma, you probably wouldn't start her on Candy Crush because you want her to see the best that video games have to offer. So you'd find something that's in the sweet spot, something like Animal Crossing, some Nintendo game that shows that video games are a beautiful art form, but that also aren't so difficult and overwhelming that she's just gonna bounce right off of it. So you need to do this for yourself when it comes to books. You should not pick up the complete works of Nietzsche or Socrates if you can't even focus on a few paragraphs when you read online. But at the same time, you shouldn't pick up some book that's not gonna give you anything interesting beyond what you get from Netflix shows and the internet. How do you do this? First, you should read something and try to get a basic understanding of how good you are at reading. Does your mind generate images when you read that make it a fun experience? Because I'm going to guess that if you pick up something even like Lord of the Rings, the language is going to be too difficult and it's going to require too much focus. You're not going to even be able to generate images of a Hobbit or Mount Doom or any of that stuff. You're just going to be looking at the text over and over again, trying to understand what's going on. So do not start there. Start somewhere that's interesting, but easy. Not too easy, not too interesting, something that your TikTok affected brain can handle and actually wants to uncover the mystery behind. It's gonna be different for everyone. That's step number 1. Now, step number 2 is easy, simple. Just look at the time you spend every day. You have 24 hours like everyone else and realize reading is going to eat some other block of time. Time does not generate out of nowhere. This is why when you say, I don't have time, it means nothing. All of us don't have time. All of us have 24 hours and all of us fill it. So if you have a new habit, of course you don't have time for that new habit because your time is already filled. So you just have to choose something from the day that's less important than reading and slice it right out. Give that time over to reading and don't delude yourself into thinking you don't have to sacrifice any time. You will. You're gonna have an hour less Netflix every day. I'm sorry. This is just how it works. Step number 3, the most important. This is the step that separates the readers from the non-readers, the people that are what they call well-read, and the people who don't even understand why books are interesting, or even more depressingly, read Harry Potter when they were a little kid, got sucked into it, got obsessed with it, but then never found another book that had the same effect on them. This step is to become a DJ for books for yourself. You need to do the work of figuring out what books are awesome that will be awesome for you and lining them up and purchasing them so that when you finish one book, you have another to move on to. Because in the gaps between books, non-readers are made. So if you're really enjoying Game of Thrones, look up or talk to your friends or on YouTube or whatever it is and figure out what books appeal to people that like Game of Thrones. But also follow your instincts. The best books I've ever found were when I went to a bookstore before I finished the book I was currently reading and I just walked through the bookshelves and kind of waited until a magnetic attraction would pull me to a certain book cover. Every time I felt a weird draw, almost like I was destined to pick up that book, it was awesome and it changed my life. That said, sometimes you just gotta go on Reddit and look for a list of recommendations. That works too. But what you should not do is wait for the right book to come to you. This isn't like TV or music. No company is going to push a book in your face. And even if they do push books in your face, it's not going to be the right book for you because the taste for books is even more particular, I think, than the taste in music or other entertainment. You need to find the books for you and not just the right book, but the right next book. So for me, actually, if I just read Game of Thrones, I probably don't want to read another huge fantasy novel. Maybe next I want to read a quick, snappy comedy, or I want to learn about medieval history that will inform my reading of Game of Thrones. So figure out with intuition where your brain wants to take you. Follow the train of curiosity to the next logical station and never get off the train. Because if you get off the train, even for a few months, you're going to lose your ability to read and you're not going to find the right book to take you where you want to go. If you read for a year to the point where you can focus and the next logical choice for you might be some great work of philosophy, but then you stop reading before you get to that work of philosophy, you're going to fall off the wagon, stop reading, and you're going to kind of be back where you started, and you're going to feel bad about it having to go back to simpler, easier reads. People that have the skill of finding books are readers. People that don't have this skill read one book, give up, and wonder where all the good books are. And honestly, that's it. These are the 3 things you need to do to read consistently. You need to develop your reading skill through books that are both interesting and easy enough that you'll actually finish them. And then you need to carve out time and sacrifice another activity so reading has a place in your day. And then you need to become a master at finding the next book. If you do those 3 things, you'll be a lifelong reader, a lifelong learner. Do these, please, so I have people to talk to about books, and enjoy your reading journey.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high.